Welcome back, everybody. It is episode 47 now of the Jader and Kyle show, coming to you live on a Saturday morning. As always, I am joined by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Jader Parama. What is going on, sir?
What up, man? You got me early. You got me up early on a Saturday, dude.
This is weird, right? This is super strange. We're so used to doing our prime time late night podcast, but as you guys know, as fans of the show, is that we have to kind of adjust based on schedules. And here we are on a Saturday morning. It's going to be a fun, interesting show. I'm interested to see how this goes, Jader, because usually at night we have a certain crowd, so during the day it might be a little different.
Yeah, I think half of our crowd are probably drunk or asleep right now. So, they'll catch us on the replay. But, it's a good time. Very, very, very excited about this show. We're talking a film that I love. And I will not wait. I know you don't. So I cannot wait to talk to you about this film. A guest, man, of a show that I'm a huge fan of. He is now part of the Movie Trivia Schmodown with yours truly. And seeing him just on the roster was something incredible, man. Let me tell you, because I was like, holy shit, like this is really expanding to something even bigger right now. Like they're just grabbing all these types of personalities and mixing them up. And, we all have that one love, which is that film. So yeah, man, without further ado, man, we have Mr. Frankie Alvarez on the show. What up, dude?
Welcome to the show, sir.
Welcome to the show. How's it going?
You can't see the top of my hands, but I'm doing the middle fingers like I'm stone cold. I promise.
You love it, dude.
Boys, gentlemen, how are you? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Great, man.
Frankie Alvarez is on the show. Jader has been excited to have you on for quite a while now.
Thanks. I've been very excited to hop on as well, so it's mutual.
No, yeah, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. He's told me a lot about your show and what you got going. He sent me some clips, so it's gonna be
you gotta know the guy a little bit so you can see what we're gonna be dealing with here, man. But yeah, man, just I'm gonna fangirl a little bit, man. I've been following the Basement Yard for a while. Little quick note. I had a show previous to this one. How this show started was basically the quarantine. We couldn't record, we couldn't go. We had a studio where we would record our podcast. And obviously with COVID and all that, everything got shut down that we couldn't go back to that.
Yikes.
And slowly but surely we it was a different crew, and then they just started doing their own thing. So we, like the band broke up, but I kind of wanted to base my show somewhat of what the Schmoes and what Basement Yard was doing, where we were talking film, but we would do say the most absurd, crazy, whatever was in our mind shit. So, obviously getting you on the show is it's a major deal for me, man. But I know that you've known Joe for a long time, right? He was best friend growing up.
Yeah. We met. So we both have older sisters who are the same age. And they went to school together from pre-K through middle school. And we had been around each other, but then when we went to pre-K together, and we were 4 years old at the time, and then it just took off from there. It didn't stop. We've been pretty inseparable our whole lives, and for better or for worse, I'm sure people will tell you. We've just been driving people, ourselves and people around us, fucking nuts. With the stupid shit we've done and said and allowed, to just go on around us. So it's been fun, man. He's made an absolute killing.
I remember when he started first with the YouTube, like the misspellings and all that stuff. When he first started just doing little clips of tweets gone bad or whatever, and then he just started blowing up, dude.
He took it off. I remember I'm pretty sure he started, really aggressively around 2010, and I remember it was small stuff, like idiots of the internet, fucking dumbasses of Walmart and, pieces of shit and, Target or whatever. And me being the dumbass I am, I was like, dude, good for you. I'm going to college. I'm going to get a degree. And, he has made quite a living doing what he does. He's very successful, but he also has he's an entrepreneurial, brain, so he knows exactly what's going to work, what's not going to work, and how to make something that will work. And he asked me about a year ago to be on the Basement Yard with him. And, I was I joke about it. I tell him all the time, like I was floored, you know, I was just like, oh my God, like finally, you know, wow. It was like the girl at prom, like you finally saw me, you know? So, yeah, man, we just,
so, yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. How'd that conversation go? Cause I know he started this whole thing with Danny, and then, all of a sudden we see you, man, and you're fucking crushing it, dude.
Thanks, man.
You are killing it. So, how did that conversation go? Because I think Danny moved to, I don't know if he moved to Florida or
so during the pandemic, he did like the opposite. It was bad in New York. So he stayed in New York when it was bad, and then he went down to Florida when it got bad down there, Danny. And you know, he kind of, you know, said to Joey, you know, because Joey started Basement Yard himself, you know, called the Basement Yard because he was just like this in his basement, as I am right now. And
what's a basement?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we're from Miami, dude. So.
I know. I was gonna say, right. Just imagine if you figured out how to live in the mud,
right? Just surrounded by dirt.
Yeah. But you know, Danny, you know, kind of said he wanted to step away and do his own thing, and you know, Joey has always been super, super supportive, and you know, trying to get us to do our own things and branch out, you know, as individuals in addition to working with him. And then, you know, he was kind of picking my brain a little bit on what he thinks he was going to do. And I, you know, again, he is like the part that people don't see about him is how incredibly smart, like business minded he is. I don't know if that was, it's funny that I use a broken ass fucking sentence to say that, but you know, he's just like, he's got it. He knows exactly what's going to work, how it's going to work. He works with people around him that help him. And, you know, I told him, I was like, dude, any decision you make, it's going to do well. And then he said, listen, you know, this is an easy decision for me to make. You know, we started doing this stuff together. There's nobody else I'd want to join me. And I threw my hands in the air. I was like, you had me at hello. Like I am ready to go, babe.
Oh yeah. That's awesome, dude. That's
awesome. Let's say with these podcasts and these shows that we do is, you know, if the personalities are good, you can make almost any form of content with it work. Yeah. You can talk about anything. People just want to hear what you have to say. And that's kind of what's happens. Let's see that's what's happened with you. And it's happened with Jader and I here. We have a good time. Like, yeah, certain movies get more views than others, but it's more just us talking back and forth. We do some bad movies here, and Jader knows that.
I don't think we do terrible films. You just hate the 90s because you're a fucking child. But but he hates. I think we've covered. I don't know how many 90s. He wants to call the show the throwback 90s show because he's like, dude. Every time we put like this episode, we didn't pull a poll, obviously, because time you're like you said the mask, and I'm like, fuck it, we're gonna do the mask. But usually we'll put a poll on our site, and people will vote out. 9 times out of 10, if there's a 90s film on there versus something newer or something even older, it'll win. So this guy's like, what the fuck, dude?
It's weird because like I find myself like enjoying movies past like 2003 more for like what they are, but like prior to that, it's all nostalgia for me. You know, so in addition to, you know, what we'll be talking about today, like I believe it's a great movie, but it's also like I remember like the first time hearing the sound of this and the first time seeing this, and you know, and it doesn't necessarily translate all the time to being a good movie, but it's just like it has a special place in my heart. And I think a lot of people are like that. The 90s were such a simpler time, you know, and we worried about was, you know, the only political thing that we had going on was someone was catching dome over in the White House.
Yeah,
you know?
baby.
Like fucking Christ. I wish that was our issue now, but
this guy wasn't even born when that shit happened.
Wait, Kyle, how old are you?
I'm gonna be 24 later this summer.
God damn. I mean, I can't talk shit. I'm only a couple years older than you, but
yeah.
Anytime I meet someone younger, I have to make fun of them.
So
go ahead, Jader.
No, go ahead, man.
I mean, we're just embracing our youth. I mean, at this point, like I feel like I was telling my family the other day, once I'm 40, I'm gonna look 20 at this point. So it's just one of those.
I don't know if you want to go into the comment section, just to, you know, a couple shout outs for Frankie. You know. Good.
Yeah, your fans are in here, Frankie, Jordan, RJ, Be Easy Weezy. We got what's Nasia. Like you got a lot of people in here tuning in. They've never seen you
saying that the surprise you're up this early, man. Look at that.
Surprise me?
Yeah, apparently.
They don't know who the fuck they're talking to, baby. I'm an early bird.
But
I work well on like a solid like 5 hours of sleep. That's all I need. Any more than that, I am too groggy.
Nice. So, any Cinco? I know we were supposed to do the show on Cinco de Mayo. Obviously, shit got complicated. Any celebrations that day?
Nothing crazy. I had work that day. I know that you guys know, and some of the people in the chat know, but we have a 3-month-old home, and I was lucky enough to have taken paternity leave, so I just returned back to work last week, and let me tell you, it is fucking miserable. It's just like being out of work for that long and then going, just jumping right back in. It does something to you, man. But I had work, and so we just made dinner. I had a couple of Coronas, nothing crazy. It's kind of hard. I moved 90 miles away from all my friends and family, so I kind of now I have no one to drink with, no one to hang out with. So I sit there and find myself, throwing back Coronas like I'm in college again. And I look around and there's a 3-month-old, a 6-year-old, and my wife who's just like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
so
dude.
Having that newborn in your house, like as far as your show that you do, you found that like it's created more content for you for the show, just talking about how this kid has changed your life completely.
Yeah, I think it adds another layer of like, kind of perspective, because in certain things I've softened up, like I mean, to an extent, I'll still say it, but like prior to having, a newborn, I was like, yo, like, I'm going to like, if there's a kid that's bothering me, I'm going to trip it, beat the dog shit out of it, just like,
I'm going to hit a baby.
Yeah.
I used to say I'm going to punch a baby all the time if some shit doesn't go my way. I was at a metal show, right? I was at a Seven Dust concert, and it was looking like they were not going to close the show with my favorite song. And I'm like, fuck. And I turned her, funny enough, one of my ex co-hosts for my other show that she's a huge she actually texted me this morning. She goes, "Fucking Frankie Alvarez is going to be on your show today." I'm like, yeah. She goes, "Dude, congrats, all this shit." Because she's huge. She listens to your shit every week too. I'm surprised she's not on right now. But I was with her at the show. And I'm like, if they don't play this fucking song, I'm going to punch a goddamn baby. And whatever, like 5 minutes later, they encore, they get back on the stage, they play the song. And she has a video of me like fucking going like this and saying, "I'm not punching babies." Like, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know certain environments how I get in certain crowds and environments, and how hype and just over the top I get. And if there were kids there, someone's catching a right hook, a fucking maybe even a stunner, an elbow. I don't know. Someone just got to do it.
Yeah, dude.
They got to learn.
I see your background over there is way better than our plain ass background. So are you a collector of sorts? A little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, there's I've always said, I don't know if I've ever told this story on online before, but I've always just loved being a kid. Like I've always loved. And when I was younger, I had such great toys and everything, and it was so much fun. And I turned my senior year of high school. I went to see Toy Story 3. Nice. And I'm like, dude, this is fucking great. I leave there. I got a tear in my eye. I'm like, oh, he hands off his toys to this dumb little idiot kid. And I'm like, yo, I'm going to go home and I'm going to play with my old toys. I don't give a shit. 17-year-old. I don't care. And I call my mom. I'm like, hype. I'm like, "Mom, guess what? Movie was great. Where are my toys?" And just like,
I've had in that, man.
Oh, and she goes, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, they're all gone." And I got into it with my mom. I was like, "What?" And so from that day on, I said to myself, if I ever have the luxury of being able to afford collector's items and toys from when I was a kid, I'm going to do it, because people out there are like, "Yo, I want to get this, blah, 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 blah." I only want what I had as a kid. And the reason I wanted is, one, to put it on display because I love that stuff. But two, like last night, my son and I stayed up late. We were playing Megazords and blah, 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 blah. So nice. That's all I want to do, So, I try to collect some stuff. I actually, if I wasn't going to give you the mask for the movie, I was going to give you Small Soldiers, which you can see.
Oh, wow. What a throwback.
Which is another, the first movie to ever make me cry. So maybe if you guys have me back on, if I'm lucky enough to be asked back, we'll do that.
I gotta imagine how
I'm already hyped. I love that fucking movie though. So,
fucking great,
and
dude.
And just I just want to see Kyle cry for another '90s film. So and not happy tears, just tears of like fucking distraught. But what was I gonna say? So yeah. So you're obviously you grew up in the '90s. So you have what do you have back there? What's your prized possession?
Ooh, you can't see them. Hold on, I'll grab them for you real quick.
All right, boom.
For those listening, Frankie is standing up right now.
A little hard to see, but last year for my birthday, I treated myself to.
Oh yeah.
These bad boys,
dude.
And, I got them in at the best time because, I got all three of those for a really good price, and now they're each easily over $500.
Yeah.
So,
jeez,
I was like, thank God. But I would say those, I like, as you could tell, I was a huge Power Ranger fan.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I have some old wrestling stuff down here, some Batman Forever stuff.
That's awesome, dude.
Did you like the new Power Rangers movie? I thought that movie was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I wanted a sequel to it. I don't know what we're doing.
What's crazy that I enjoyed it until they turned into the Power Rangers for some reason.
Stop.
Like I didn't hate. No. I didn't hate when they turned into a power, but I just thought the story of them and all that, how they got their powers. I'm like, man, this is so dope. And again, they won me over with the whole the Blue Ranger having autism. I thought that was great. My son has autism, so it's one of those things that it was such a great touch, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. Somebody eventually, when my son gets into all this, my son's in his own world. He's almost 10, but there's a lot of things that I try to show him, and he's like, not interested, dude. And I'm like, he's like, that's old. I don't like it. I'm like, God damn it,
Show these movies.
But eventually, I do want him to see this movie and all that. But I did enjoy it. I thought I reviewed it and I gave it a positive review. But I don't know why. I thought the story of them like becoming and uniting and all, I love that so much more than the actual stuff at the end for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, it was enjoyable. I thought Elizabeth Banks hammed it up, boy. I mean, I know we're going to get into this movie and some of the awards that you guys have later, but she would have easily been recognized for just chewing the scenery.
Oh yeah.
And I think that they did some things that didn't work, great, but overall I enjoyed it, and I was upset that they then just kind of scrapped it. But with Hasbro buying the Power Rangers brand, they said that they're rebooting and doing a whole new film universe. I hate to say, I'm excited. The kid in me is pumped, man. I'm ready to see my my Power Rangers back on the screen.
I like how it was called Saban's Power Rangers and not just Power Rangers. It's like it's one of those authors or creators that has to put their name on it, like Tom Clancy. Like he's got his Without Remorse out right now, but it has to be Tom Clancy's Without Remorse. Like the arrogance is also very amusing to me. That you're like, no, you have to know that this is my thing. I made this product. I hope you enjoy it. So, Frankie, I want to dive back into real quick that conversation that must have happened when you went and saw Toy Story 3. That was a gut punch. It takes you out. Yeah, like absolutely.
I think everybody felt that way. No matter how old you were, you saw that movie. You grew up. I saw the first Toy Story day, like first day in the theater, and I've seen every single one of them in theater first day they come out. Same thing. I walked out of Toy Story 3 and I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm like that. Yeah. Mind you. In 2000,
that's not a kid's movie, man. It hurts.
I was 23, 24 when that movie came out, and I was like, "What the fuck, man?" Like, I walked out with like a knot in my throat, man. It was insane.
Yeah, I hold on to my childhood, like in terms of like the parts that I can hold on to. Like, I understand I'm an adult now, and I try to think that I'm mature for my age, quote unquote, but. I had such a fond memory of being a kid, and like just there was a lot of like family issues around me. It was a time where I was my parents were together. I'm a child of divorce, and it makes it. I remember physically so fondly and vividly sitting there and having these toys in my hand, and then looking over to my left and seeing my younger brothers and my sister and my parents in the same house, and my grandmother. And it just like, it's a sense of comfort and a sense of joy that I'll always try. I sound like a fucking addict because I'm chasing the dragon with it, and all I've cared about in my life is, when it comes to my family is just being able to give them, some sort of the same warmth and happiness. And a big part of that for me was, some of the toys and video games and stuff like that. So I try to recreate that with my son, and, and then I try to do other stuff, with, he loves to cook and he loves to garden and be outdoors. So I'm just trying to what made me happy as a kid, make my, kind of pass that down so they can do it too.
I respect that, man. That's awesome. It sounds like you're a great father, man.
Oh, thanks.
What was I going to say? So you mentioned, obviously, we see your toys back there. Now you mentioned video games. What are you playing now, man?
Oh, well, I got the show. I'm playing MLB The Show. I'm trying to make it to the league.
Oh, what is your preference system? Because there's usually these console wars. Is there a console war in your house? Does that even exist?
It not as much. I mean, the more adult stuff. I do currently have the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, and the Switch. And then, something that's not behind me is I do have, all the retro consoles, 64, SNES, NES, and I just try to share that stuff with my son. So right now it's a lot of Mario Kart, Mario Odyssey, Pokemon Snap, which I'm fine with, Are you
playing the new Pokemon Snap?
Listen. Listen up very clearly. My wife last week thought I was on something because it's Saturday morning, 5 a.m. and I'm out with, I have the baby in the carrier. She's asleep and I'm bouncing around just like, oh shit, there's a Meganium, pa, 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 pa. And she comes out and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I've had a pot of tea. I'm ready to go. And I just got a 4-star picture of a, Charmander.
There you go. No, dude, so I haven't been around. Same thing. I actually have the Xbox Series X. I got the PS5 and the Switch, which I didn't think I was gonna like the Switch as much.
You got the hookups, goddamn.
No, man. It was they were gifts, man. Well, the PS5 was a gift. My girlfriend got it for me for our anniversary, which was amazing.
I'm gonna go yell at my wife because she hasn't gotten me either the PS5.
Yeah, how dare she?
Yeah, what the fuck? Everyone's like, dude, you don't want to say that out loud, man, because all these guys are at. And she got it for me day one. It was here in my home the first day it came out. It was so great.
She carried a baby for 9 months and she can't afford to get me a PS5.
Who does she think he is? What is this?
But my cousin, I haven't gotten any games. I don't have time. I have something. I'm doing something every single day.
Yeah.
Right? So I saw Pokemon Snap, and that when you're talking about childhood, Pokemon Snap for the 64 was my child. I loved that game so much. So finding out that the new one was coming out, I got the itchy fingers, and I'm like, I'm gonna go get it. But I knew it was gonna stay. Look, I haven't played games since like it came out. I think last Friday. I haven't sat down and play any video games, right? And I called my cousin on Monday because I knew for a fact that he had it, right? And I called him like, hey, dude, did you get it? He goes, did I get it? Of course. He's like us, dude. I mean, grew up in the 90s. He has a collection like yours. He's a big kid, and we're turning fucking 35 this year. And so I'm like, hey, man, I get off of work at 6. Can you come over so I can play this game just a little bit? Just a little, just a tip, a little bit. And then he's like, yeah, man, for sure. Comes over. And the nostalgia hit me. So when you said the four, I forgot what Pokemon. I'm not good with the newer class of Pokemon.
Me neither. I'm
OG 150.
Me too.
152 Pokemon. But I got a picture that apparently he wouldn't be, and it was a 4-star. He's like, how the fuck do you get a 4-star on your first shot, man? And I was like, oh shit, this is a good thing. So I played the first 3 levels, and then they told me that you have to get a different picture of every Pokemon. Like you have to get a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and then do the level again at night. So I'm like, oh, it has a lot of replay value, which I thought was super dope.
Yeah, I was super into it, and it's funny because my when my son Miles is his name. When Miles came home, I was like, guess what? And he was like, oh my god! Yeah. He plugs it in, and he is such a perfectionist. He recently, his dad gave him a little digital camera. So he'll walk around our neighborhood and take pictures and set stuff up. But he's like trying to set up this like perfect shot of this like, fucking Pichu just sitting there. Yeah. And I'm like, just take them all. Just take 100 pictures. Just do it. I'm sitting there like itching.
So that's why I kind of want to get the game for my son because I got for Christmas. He broke his iPad, and he had asked for all these toys, right? He broke his iPad, and then he's like, Dad, he broke his iPad maybe like 5 days before Christmas. And he goes, Dad, I know I already wrote my letter to Santa. And he goes, but honestly, he's like, tell him I don't want any gifts. I just want my iPad back. And I'm like, oh man. I'm like, all right. And exactly, dude. And so the idea was to get his phone for him when he turned 10, right? He does all these sorts of therapies, and so I'm like, I want to know where he's at all times. So I called his mom, and I was like, hey, this has happened. She goes, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I think we should get him the phone for Christmas. And she goes, I'm okay with it. Because like just months before I had mentioned the phone, she goes, no, he's too young. Now I guess she saw what happened. This kid is like, again, now he has an iPhone, and he's just taking pictures of everything, and he loves Pokemon. So I'm like, I have to get him this game.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, dude.
That's great. And I mean, I don't mean to, get too personal. Kyle, you're just here at this point. But
I love Pokemon.
I know. And I don't mean to get too personal, but I know like off air we spoke a little bit, and something that people I have experience with, and I think you should be commended for as well, is all the stories you've told me of your children, and you seem like you have a really good co-parenting relationship, and I know that that's not always easy. So kudos to you for that, man, because it is an art, and it is difficult, and there are times where you want to rip your hair out, but it's something that it takes an incredible and immense amount of patience. So cheers to you for that, because I know how difficult it can be.
Thank you very much, man. No, I mean we have a rock star system, man, to be honest with you. And then my girlfriend now, she's amazing with them. My kids love her as well. So we're all in this, together and all that stuff. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much.
I almost busted out into my High School Musical when you said that right there. So that's more Kyle's Kyle's.
You lost me there, dude. You lost me there completely. We are actually having the discussion with my friends that they were talking. They're like, you're so into movies and you've never seen I'm like, I've never seen Disney movies,
Channel.
like Disney Channel. Yeah. I saw Brink. That was it. I was mentioning like Johnny Tsunami, and I'm like, dude, I've never seen any of these things. Like, if that was Schmodown questions, I'd be fucking.
Oh, I mean, if I ever get an Eddie's $1 million cook-off question in the Schmodown, I'm just gonna lose my goddamn mind. But I don't think it'll ever happen.
So, mentioning the Schmodown, I had mentioned in the beginning of the show that you are a part of the Schmodown now. So, congratulations,
Thank
man.
you. Thank you.
Killing it so far. How did you find the Schmodown?
I've been a fan of the OG Screen Junkies for a long time. Always loved the content they put out. It was at a point in my life where I was looking for, just to get more in, find people to speak movies with, because I knew some people, but not a lot of people. And, finding their channel, loved it. And then, of course, stumbled on over to, the Schmoes Know channel. And I remember I had watched them consistently, more of their movie reviews and the movie trivia stuff I hadn't really been into. And then it just came up in my queue one day, and it was a match, with I forgot who it was against, but it was the match where it was supposed to be a teams match with Rachel and Ken, and Ken kind of dropped out, and she went in like a 2-on-1 handicap, and I was just enthralled, and anytime, I'm doing work around the house, I would throw it on. I would listen to matches. I'd listen to, the post matches, the shows and everything. And I know it drove my wife crazy, because she would always sit there and she would listen, and she would get like one question per match. Yeah. And I just, by the grace of God, Christian and I linked up, and, put me in the draft, and then out of nowhere, Sam Levine just kind of sweeping me off my feet, and here we are.
I was his pick too last year, man.
He likes the strapping Hispanic men, I can tell.
There you go. There you go.
Because I forgot who it was, but someone said, they were like, you look a lot like Jader, and I was like, good. That's good. That's a good looking duo.
It's a fucking compliment. No, man. So that's awesome, dude. So again, big movie buff, and you found them. That match is incredible. That Rachel match is some shit, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, obviously, I know you. She's incredible. Just the help, everything that she provides, man. She's fantastic, dude.
Don't give away the secrets.
No.
Thank you, Kyle. I'm kind of talking against the competition here. I don't know what to say.
I don't know what we're doing. You're good. Jader's fishing right now. So, so Frankie, when we asked you to come on the show, Jader basically got the mask out of you, and it sounds like that was the pick from the beginning. Is we're gonna do the mask. So I got to ask you, why did you want to do the mask to be the film that we're covering on the show?
I just, I always tell people whenever they, say like, what's your favorite movie of all time? I always answer The Mask. I think a lot of who I am now is heavily, heavily influenced from this movie. Just the dark humor, the over the top slapstick, and just the pure energy that comes from this movie shaped me from a really, really, really young age. And, without even telling my son that we were going to be talking about this today, this morning, he woke up, he's like, let's watch The Mask. And I was just like, it's timeless in my opinion. And it's honestly a movie that doesn't get spoken about enough because of when it came out, but I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit.
We'll get all into that. I promise you. So, let us know. This was your first viewing of The Mask.
So here's my thing about it. Is it, first of all, I don't know if you guys get the sense from it. It felt like at the beginning, like a Nickelodeon / like Cartoon Network original movie, if that makes sense. Like just the way it opens, the graphics, what kind of the feel, the tone. It felt like that's what I was diving into. And then, like, I obviously know the background of it. Jim Carrey, he's like the biggest star in the world at the time, blah, blah, blah. I just don't think this movie holds up very well. And it's not just because of some of the dirtier stuff that it gets into. I think it's just because of the goofiness of it. I don't think the goofiness and the humor really holds up based on where we are today. I was watching with my sister, and I loved everything up until when he put the mask on. And then when he has the mask on, it feels like a completely different movie. Like it kind of gets abnormal and almost a little, my sister used the word creepy, which I could kind of see it a little bit too, because he's just like a completely different person with this mask on. It's not the same film I've been watching this entire time. So that dichotomy, that back and forth. It's supposed to be creepy.
So the property that it's based off of is actually a pretty mature comic series.
Yeah, I was telling my girl that last night, dude, that it's pretty dark.
Yeah, it's and I think they found one of the reasons that, I hadn't known this at the time. You're 100% right about the opening. That's probably what kind of drew me into it a little bit is, I'm a kid at the time, bright-eyed, literally 2-year-old kid at the time. And I'm sitting there and like the bright colors, the music, the sounds, that's the thing that's popping out at me. So they grabbed me, personally, I can say, and I'm sure other kids at the time too. That's probably what the allure that grabbed me in at the moment. But this, it based off of what it was, where it came from, the comic series, and then what it became, it's the perfect meld of both of them because it is creepy and it is dark. And there are probably a lot darker ways they could have went about it. So capitalizing on, Jim Carrey, who at the time of release, he had just, 94, sorry, Jader, I don't mean to step on your toes, but 94 was the biggest year possibly for any comedic actor in the 90s. You saw, in February, you saw Ace Ventura. In July, you saw this. And then a couple months later, you saw Dumb and Dumber. Yeah. So he was just getting started. This was still someone who people said like he has a lot of potential, but they did not know the absolute mega power he was going to become when this was filming or when it released.
Yeah, he was basically the next step of Eddie Murphy at the point. We follow our comedians from different times. They basically hold decades, and Eddie Murphy was the 80s, and then we lead into the 90s, and that's when Jim Carrey really hits the scene with this. Like, it's hard to top this year for anybody, any actor, any director ever. Like, I think the only person who gets close is Spielberg in 93 with Jurassic Park and
Schindler's List. Yeah,
literally the year before. Otherwise, it's like Jim Carrey has 3 of his. We'll get to it later in Apex Mountain, but basically his biggest hits all in the same exact year.
And you go just the following year, right after that, and you have Batman Forever '95 and the sequel to Ace Ventura.
So right. Yeah, I mean the guy's firing on all cylinders at this point. Yeah. I just when you mentioned how the comic series is a little darker, I feel like that's where this film falters a little bit. Is they couldn't get the tone completely right. I love some of the aspects that they're trying to make it lighter with, adding the dog in there, which is not in the comic series I read, and adding a couple other new characters to make it feel a little lighter. But then they also, venture towards the darker side. Like, I don't care what anyone says. The mask looks creepy. It does. When it's on someone, he's got that big smile, the red lips, green head. I mean, it looks like an Independence Day alien came down and just turned human. So, but at the end of the day, though, I really like the human stuff of it. I really like him being this guy who's just a nice person, and he's a nice guy. He's someone who just hasn't gotten around in life, and this mask brings out the side of him that he wished he always had. But then, obviously, then you realize that you don't need the mask to be yourself. So I like that message. I think it's very strong. Jader, let's get to you, man. You love this movie, right?
Absolutely, man. I grew up with it, dude. I saw this in the theater. I went to the movie theater to see all three of these. I was there. I was present. My uncle is a huge movie fan, but he's not even movie. He loved Jim Carrey back then. He loved, he grew up with, the slapstick with Leslie Nielsen. He would take me to go see the Naked Gun movies in the theater. I saw Ace Ventura in the theater, and I remember when I saw Ace Ventura, it was one of the more explicit films. Like, it was very vulgar.
Yeah.
For the time being. And I remember, I came home and did the butt thing from Ace Ventura to my mom, and my mom slapped the shit out of me. And she's like, "Are you kidding me? This is the shit that you're showing." Like, it's my mom's younger brother. So she was like, and then she it got to a point where right after that thing, it was no Jim Carrey in this household. You're not allowed to see this.
Really?
Yeah. And that died super quick because Ace Ventura came out. We saw The Mask in theater. I went to go see The Mask. My birthday's in July, so I'm pretty sure we saw it like around my birthday. Hey, there you go. You see? And then so it wasn't until my mom saw Dumb and Dumber that she cracked up watching that movie so much that like, that's fine. Like, you'll be okay. So I remember she thought he was like, so vile and vulgar, and she's like, I can't stand him. We had that in the house, and she couldn't stand Mike Myers. Couldn't stand him. So Wayne's World, all that stuff. She's like, she'll let me watch it, but she's like, oh, like in Spanish, like over here, it's like un bofe, but it's like you like repugnant. She's like, very repugnant, And so obviously when you tell a kid, don't watch it, I'm like, I'm watching all this shit. Mind you, I've said this multiple times on this show. I saw Terminator 2 in theater. She let me see RoboCop, like all these like blood splat violent films. Didn't matter. If they like showed an ass cheek, like a male ass cheek, she's like, oh, it's vulgar. I don't want you to see that shit. It's it's always an extreme with her, right? But I remember seeing the match, and obviously this movie comes out when I'm 8 years old. So I feel like the beginning of the film, as an adult, yes, I like it. But as a kid, I was like, when is the funny thing's going to happen? As soon as he puts on that mask, for me, I'm like, now the movie started. I rewatched the movie this week with my son. He had never seen it. I'm like, hey, buddy, sit down. We're going to watch a movie. It's really funny. This kid was cracking up. He couldn't. We started it kind of late. We started like around 8 o'clock. So he didn't see the whole thing. But this kid laughed so hard at, that Tommy gun scene, at the clock when he's bashing it with the mallet and all that. Like, he was dying. He's like, oh my God, Dad, like, I need to finish it. He called me. Not called me this morning when we were getting out. He's like, oh, do you have a show today? And I'm like, yeah, we're going to talk that movie, The Mask. And then he's like, I need to finish it. That next week when I come over, we got to finish this movie. And I'm like, yes, dude. So, and I told him, I asked him, I'm like, you don't think it's boring? He goes, the beginning was a little boring, but he goes, once he puts on the mask, it's so funny. And I was like, oh. So, that all worked out for me. Obviously, watching it as an adult, there's some things that I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of was trying to see it through Cal's eyes now, because I'm still gonna I saw it. It was nostalgic for me. I love it, and I'm like, I can see how someone that's never seen the movie before and sees it for the first time in 2021, it's just, they just won't get it. It's one of those, like, that thing going around, you had to be there. Like, you had to be there. And I feel like that's Jim Carrey as a whole. Like,
yeah, and I think a big part of it is, being able to see, like, the reason I believe it's timeless is because I watched it as a kid, I watched it as a young adult, and then I've watched it where I am now. And it's kind of progressed, and things that I've found funny then, I still find funny. And then I'm like, oh, I missed this part. Oh, I missed this part.
And I missed the condom joke completely.
I'm a kid and I'm watching him pull a used condom out, I think that's one of the things that, works for me so much with this movie is that as a child, you take away the parts that you enjoy, and then it continues and it evolves, and there are different layers there. And at surface value, it's a simple story, exactly what Kyle was saying before, be yourself, blah, 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 put the mask on. But I think the part that really holds us together is Jim Carrey and his incredible, and in my opinion, unmatched physical comedy. Because kids, the first time I showed my son this, and I knew I was the same when I was young, he was walking like the mask. He was spinning like the mask. He was dancing like the mask. He was trying to do everything. And those are the small parts that really jump off the screen. Is like, even like as a young 5-year-old watching this movie, trying to, recreate those moments. It speaks to how well they're done in the movie, and it adds another layer, in my opinion, to why this movie is so fun, because even though you're watching a movie, you want to be there and you want to do it yourself. And I know I was like that. I know my son was like that. And I'm sure other people are like that as well too,
I think I've touched on this before in the show is comedy's evolved quite a bit since like the 80s was, like I said, Eddie Murphy, 90s leads into Jim Carrey, Mike Myers, and then towards the end of the 90s you start getting your Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell takes over, Steve Carell. Then we lead right now into our Judd Apatow, Seth Rogen are kind of at the tail end right now. Maybe Melissa McCarthy's a part of that as well. But comedy's evolved from what I think this is like the slapstick era to where it became more of like real life, and we're just going to find the funny in everyday situations, which is where Apatow and Seth Rogen
succeed. Of course. Huh? No, that's where Apatow thrive.
Yeah, that's a sweet spot right there. And I feel like comedy's just come a long way. And I didn't grow up with this stuff like you guys did. So like reverting back to the slapstick stuff is like, it's kind of jarring for someone like me, because it's not something you would think is just funny on the surface, but you can appreciate talent when you see it. And, Jim Carrey, he's been crushing it for such a long time now. I feel like it's been hard for him to get on his feet again lately. I think Sonic was a great return to form.
Sonic was great, man. Loved it in Sonic. Yep.
And I think it still works if he finds the right material. So I hope for like in the future that he can get back on this. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on with this movie before we jump into the categories?
Just kind of looking at how we were speaking positively about Sonic. Kyle, I don't know. I assume you enjoyed him in Sonic.
Yeah, I like Sonic.
And if you liked Sonic, it's difficult for me to see why you're not a big fan of The Mask, because my favorite scene in Sonic, and I really surprisingly enjoyed that movie, is that dance scene where he's getting to do his own thing. And he, when the guy gives him a latte and he's like, that scene is The Mask. Yeah. And that is the entirety of it.
I said that in the theater, and that's it should have been like the first light bulb for me, because I took we were lucky enough to interview Ben Schwartz for
I saw that on your Instagram.
Super cool guy. And I took my son to go see Sonic, and he was cracking up during that dance scene, where in that moment I was like, I gotta show him The Mask, and I never did until this week. But that's exactly it. You hit it, man. When I saw that scene, I'm like, this is old school Jim Carrey doing what he loves, making me laugh, and it's watching, him do the Cuban Pete or the Hey Pachuco scene, all that shit. So seeing that, I was like, man, this is awesome. Cause it's true. Like, he hasn't been hitting them lately. And seeing him in that, you can just tell that he was having a blast. And I can't wait for the sequel. I'm super hyped for the sequel for Sonic, man. But it's just, again, this is Kyle, this is going to be something for you. Like when you grow up and you're going to think your comedy greats, you're going to obviously think the 2010 comedies. You know, you're going to think your Rogans and your Jonah Hills and your Apatow crew and your McBrides and so on and so forth. For us, it was Jim Carrey. Like again, like childhood hero. You know, my favorite comedy of all time is Dumb and Dumber, and that's one movie that over and over and over again. It's just it always hits. You know, and I feel like he was just like we were talking about, you know, Frankie and growing up with the toys that he loves and his, you know, his childhood. Jim Carrey's my childhood. That's why I always defend him, always. When someone's like, oh, he's not, you know, he's okay. And it's the newer class, obviously. I'm like, dude, you don't know. And this is probably what we get when, you know, we're talking about older comedians that we're like, oh, it's just not our thing. And they're like, oh, you had to be there. You know, like this was what was going on.
And I think it's, you know, for someone, you know, at an early age, I showed that I enjoyed entertaining, you know, in certain, you know, in any regard, you know, and in certain settings, you know, definitely. And as a kid, being able to see this, Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, you know, even, you know, a lot of people talk badly about it. I remember it fondly at the time, and I watched it enough. Well, yes, the Cable Guy, but also his run in The Grinch. I really, like, as a kid, enjoyed that movie, and being able to see on screen someone doing what I still do enjoy, it's like it's easy to recreate. And that's why Jim Carrey, you know, has had, and this movie in particular had such an effect, and I have such fond memories of it, is because in my mind it was like, I like to make people laugh. Look at what this guy is doing and the energy he gives off, and he's just nonstop, and he's, you know, he's on it all the time, and it's like, it's a no-brainer to remake this, you know, to kind of try to do this in my own life. So it would be you know, kind of silly for me to ignore, you know, the possibility of the person I am and why I like to entertain not coming from Jim Carrey's entire stretch in the 90s, but specifically this movie.
Yeah, no, and you kind of also, when you mentioned, you know, everyone like dancing like him, dude, that was the 90s, right? So you had people quoting this movie non-stop, smoking all the time. My son was saying it this morning. I was like, man, that's awesome, dude. Like, it's so great. And I don't know how many, like, and this film, Kyle, they had a cartoon series for The Mask.
Yeah.
Like that, and that was awesome for me. Just seeing the adventures of Stanley Ipkiss and The Mask, you know, through that. That was the sequel that we wanted that we never got. Well, we got the sequel.
We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that.
You know, but yeah, I don't know if you guys want to jump into the categories. If you have anything else to say,
let's do it now. Just one quick note, Frankie. I think the Cat in the Hat ruined the Grinch for that whole era right there, because the cat.
Well, you put both of them. Like I wasn't a big fan of the Grinch movie itself. I was a fan of his in the movie because, again, you can tell the makeup and everything, and he's just so incredible. But the film itself, for me, it didn't hit. I guess maybe I was too old. Not that I'm too old for it, but it didn't hit. And then when I saw the Cat in the Hat, it made me appreciate the Grinch so much more. Fucking Godfather compared to this shit.
I mean, say what you want about Cat in the Hat. You know, you cannot say that Mike Myers is not being exactly who Mike Myers is in that movie. Yeah. And if you enjoy that, you will watch it and take something from that movie and be like, okay, you know, we actually rewatched it recently. You know, Jader, I'm sure you know you understand this, but like kids watch the same like 20 movies 100,000 times on repeat. Yeah. So if we're not watching The Grinch, The Mask, Cat in the Hat is on in there somewhere. So it's not great. I'll stand by that. There are parts of it that I can't watch.
Cringy, man.
But you cannot deny that Mike Myers was not doing everything he could to just be Mike Myers.
The dirty hoe part always kills me.
I love that part.
That part is hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude.
Yeah, let's jump into the categories here now, guys. So the first category we have here is best scene. So Frankie, this is your choice this is your movie. So I'm going to start with you here. What is your choice for best scene?
You know, it's really difficult, and I think there are some people that are probably going to hate me for choosing this scene in particular because there's an easy answer, but I'm actually going to give an answer that's a little different. And it's the landfill park scene leading into the Cuban Pete scene. Cuban Pete's an awesome scene. Yeah. literally, I have it on I listen to that song regularly. And just everything about it, the choreography, everything was so fun. But right before that, the landfill park scene where he's being arrested and like kind of patted down by the cops, and just they're pulling things out and he's just going line for line, and then they pull out a picture of Detective Calloway's wife. And he's like, you married her, and then he smacks him in the face. It's great, and it's such an underrated scene because it is kind of sandwiched right in between, Cuban Pete and kind of what comes before that with the dance scene, and it's so fun. And I think like that scene in particular really speaks to the strength of the entire cast, which Jim Carrey carries this movie. No fucking doubt about it. But the fact that, he's able to have that banter with the Peter Riegert, I think is his name, that plays the cop. Yes. Yeah. And the gentleman playing the other cop. Doyle. Doyle. And he starts like, Cuban Pete starts dancing and he goes, I will shoot you. But that Landfill Park scene, man, it gets me every time. And they're like, I anytime I watch it, I always catch something new.
Jader, what did you have?
I'm going with a more obvious scene, but not Cuban Pete. It is a dance number, and it's the Hey Pachuco scene when he's dancing with with Tina, in the Coco Bongo Club, man.
Yeah.
Since a kid, it was the music, the way he spins, the whole noir thing, hearing the dun, 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 dun. Like as a kid, I was always waiting for that scene to come over and over, and me doing a piss poor job trying to dance that fucking scene. Every time I saw that movie, and rewatching it with my son this week, man, it just always brings that. I'm not gonna lie to you. You could have probably quizzed me on this movie and no problem. In fact, my 5-pointer against Tom was a mask question, which was what was the name of the club in the movie The Mask? And everybody
I watched that. I was like,
yeah. No, and I answered it in like 2 seconds. I was like, boom. Like that was, some people like to wait. And I was like, fuck, I was so pissed that I was down that I was just like, shooting it. So I saw that. For me is a 1-pointer. Very easy question. But again, we grew up and I hadn't seen this movie, no lie, in probably 10 to 15 years.
Wow.
And it's been a long time since I've seen this movie, but I love it. I saw, again, you just mentioned kids watching movies over and over and over again. I think if I tell you that I've seen the movie The Mask under 50 times, it's very little. I know I've seen it over 100 times. That's how many times I've seen this movie. Now, that scene was coming up this week, and it was just like, started smiling. I'm like, yeah, and I love it when he says, let's rock this joint. He spins the guy, and you hear that drumming. I was so obsessed with this soundtrack. This is one of the first
it's incredible
that I bought with my own money. And I remember going to Specs Music, guys. I don't even think it was Specs. I think it was Blockbuster Music. That existed, guys. and I went to go buy this soundtrack, and I would replay it over and over again. And the music it brings you back to what's.
Oh yeah.
And Hey Pachuco was the one that I would always, and even my family was like, hey, I like that song. They would like play it at our parties and shit. I'm like, they're trying to dance as fucking 8-10 years old, whatever. But that scene for me is just incredible. I know it's not all them doing the choreography, but I just had and even just like you said, the lead up before that, where he's turning into the, Tex Avery cartoon and hitting himself and the tongue. I use that, sometimes my girlfriend will send me pictures and I use that tongue rollout GIF all the time. It's still one of my favorite GIFs that I have.
It's a good one. It's iconic.
Yeah, dude. So that for me is the scene. I know, again, I thought everybody figured Cuban Pete is the more popular dance scene, but I actually love this one so much more.
And at the tail end of that scene too, when he does, like the accepting the Oscar and like the shootout and stuff, like I still to this day do, it still works. And again, it's so, it hits on everything. The music is perfect in that moment. The writing, the improv, because I know there's improv there.
I feel that was very little writing and way like Jim Carrey improv that whole fufucking scene. It was good. It was so funny.
I'll just go with the easy one then. It's the Cuban Pete scene. Sometimes we got to mention it. That scene is so much fun. And anytime there's someone surrounded by cops with guns and it's like kind of a lighthearted movie, I got to see how they get out of it. How are you going to do it? How are you going to get out of this situation? And he just starts like going into this movie not knowing what they're doing, just starts singing. It has this
and he has the guy's one of the cops is going like this, dude. It's so great, man.
Yeah, they start singing along with them. They all start dancing. It just like I wanted to stand up and start dancing because it drew me in, like it drew the cops, and just gets them all going. And it's so funny how the sergeant is the only one who's not doing it. Even his partner is getting ready to dance into it.
There he goes. I'll blow your brains out.
Yeah.
No, that scene just like it's a great little moment inside this plot that's like kind of wild, and I really enjoyed that moment. So I know it's like the obvious choice, but it's obvious for a reason because it's a really good scene. So that'd be my choice there. Next category, best line. It's mostly going to be improv. I feel like in this, I feel a lot of this script was just Jim Carrey going at it. So Jader, I'm going to start with you this time. What's your pick for the best line in the movie?
So best line for me isn't necessarily the best line in the film. The reason why I'm picking this line is because this movie reminds me of my best friend that passed away because we were obsessed with this film as kids, right? And it's just any Jim Carrey, to be honest with you, because that was his favorite actor, hands down. But we would quote The Mask so much, and every time we were gonna go out, and I actually posted it as the Instagram post, which is PARTY, because I got it. So every time we were gonna go out and we were ready to go or anything like that, that's what we would text each other, right? So it's more of a personal line for me because it was one of those things that we would just quote all the time right before we were gonna go fucking get hammered. Pretty sure his mom's watching the show right now. She always tunes in. But yeah, that's my favorite line, and it's more of a personal thing. And then like it's again, it was all improv. This movie again, Kyle was quoted nonstop, and it was just little simple lines. Like smoking was just huge.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. But yeah, PARTY because I got it is my favorite line in this film.
Well, I also chose another one of his. There wasn't like a profound line in this. There's a lot of funny lines.
Mask, dude. It's the mask.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
You're not going to pull something that's going to like hit you to your core. But I got our love is like a red, red rose, and I'm a little thorny. Like that's just
yes, dude. Yeah,
it's a great little moment right there. So that was my choice. Frankie, you got a choice for this?
Yeah, I mean, PARTY was one I was gonna go with, but I figured someone would pick it. So another just absolute. It's so. When I think of best lines for movies, yes, I think of like what is gonna hit me the most, but I also try to think of like what I'm going to use the most. And I can tell you the one that I've absolutely used the most is during the balloon animal scene, where he goes, a French poodle, and he gives it, or and he goes, get out of here, kid, you bother me. And it's like, it's just great, like you don't realize, and maybe that speaks to who I am in my life, but like just telling just like get out of here, you bother me. It's so fucking, it's so quick, it's so fun. He kind of just turns it on a dime and drops it out of nowhere, and you would honestly miss it if you weren't paying attention during that scene. Love it.
Yeah, it's all about the delivery, and Jim Carrey.
Great choice.
Casting what ifs is our next category here. So a lot of research was put into this one. There's quite a few casting what ifs. So the producer suggested Anna Nicole Smith for Tina before they ultimately cast Cameron Diaz. And then also they had Jennifer Connelly was also considered for the role of Tina. So there's quite a few, and then also I can't.
No offense, but I had the biggest crush on Tina Carlisle growing up, so I can't picture. I mean, they're fine women, but
I was gonna say I don't. You like that dance scene. You were talking about it quite a bit, and I'm starting to. I was wondering. I was like, he didn't mention Tina not once.
No. She definitely has a big part of that scene, dude. She was awesome. But this was her first role, dude. So
yeah, number one.
Yeah.
Richard Gere and Tim Allen were both considered for the role of Mitch, the detective.
The detective, yeah.
I could see that. I could see Tim Allen definitely. I thought it was Richard Gere at first when he first popped up.
The irony that Tim Allen would play a detective is just hysterical.
Yeah.
Listen to this list. These are people that were considered for the role of Stanley Ipkiss. Matthew Broderick, Steve Martin, Rick Moranis, Martin Short, Keanu Reeves, Mike Myers, John Ritter, and Robin Williams.
Jesus Christ, they had a big list.
I mean, the comedy powerhouses at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only one, I read Robin Williams' book, and in it mentions that, he was kind of threatened a little bit by Jim Carrey. And the only person in there, I like most of the people, if not all the people on there, a big SNL guy. So Martin Short and, Steve Martin jump off. But the only person that could have done this was Robin Williams, if not Jim Carrey. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I thought Keanu Reeves was a weird choice to see in here. There's no way this was Keanu.
P-A-R-T, why? I forgot.
Spicy meatball.
Oh my God, dude.
And then finally for the role of Dorian, Jack Nicholson, Willem Dafoe, Dennis Hopper, Robert De Niro, and Rupert Everett were considered for the role. I always get questionable when I read these things and I see that they say considered, because of course I'm going to consider the greatest actors working at that time for the role, but do they want it? I don't know. Willem Dafoe would have been a fun choice. I would like to see Willem Dafoe in this movie going head to head with Jim Carrey, but I don't see a Jack Nicholson or Robert De Niro getting involved in this.
Yeah, the only reason I'm kind of like really enjoying I think Peter Green, who ended up playing Dorian, was good for it, is because even his character, there is a bit of a juxtaposition. His character as Dorian without the mask, he's quiet, he's contained, he's kind of, like chill, but he's got the menace. And then when he puts the mask on, that's when he's, employee, he gets bigger. And I feel like everyone else is pretty big to begin with.
Yeah.
In terms like Jack Nicholson, you would have like how much difference would you have gotten between Jack Nicholson's Dorian and wearing the mask, So I think all of those, of course, as you said, Kyle, anyone's considered, but I think he did well.
Yeah.
And then so let's move on here to the next category, which will be the Hershely Award for Best Sharpshooter. So this is the character who does the most in the least amount of time. Let's start with you, Frankie, on this one. Who are you going to go with?
Honestly, someone that doesn't get spoken about, and I completely forgot was in this movie, is, underground comedy icon Richard Jeni as Charlie. His lines are small, and he really doesn't have a whole lot to do outside of just kind of being there. But I thought I remember his role in this quite fondly, and I thought that he made the most of what he had.
Yeah.
Was that your choice too, Jader?
Nope.
So Richard
Milo the dog.
Okay, yes, that's the correct answer. Milo the dog. Yeah, Milo. He saves it.
Wait, there's wrong answers in this?
This is the correct answer. No, Richard Jeni was my backup choice. I had Milo the dog also because I just feel like that dog is hitting on all cylinders in this. When he's licking Jim Carrey's ear, it's so funny.
It's so great, man. When he pulls the key from the cop and he's just looking and he's pulling, bro, that shit is amazing. The whole drop it when he like at the dude, he's just smart ass dog, man. I love it. Yeah.
No, that dog's like he's crushing it every single time. The whole jumping up the wall. Who knows how many times they filmed that scene with the dog jumping up the wall?
Oh, probably way too many.
I'm sure a lot.
It's got to get exhausted at that point. And then, like, just to finally get him enough, someone's got to be underneath the boost up high left, and then Jim Carrey's got to catch him. That dog's really, like, that's a good acting dog right there. Next will be the Bill Murray Award for Best Cameo. Jader, I'll start with you this time. Who's your pick for this?
He has a bigger role. That's where Richard Jeni was for me.
Okay.
He was my cameo scene. He again, very little time, very little screen time. Crushes it every time he's on the screen, makes me laugh. Kind of a dickhead, not a dickhead friend. I don't want to call him a dickhead friend, but just kind of in his own world and forgets about Stanley. But the next day he's like, "Hey man, I'll make it up to you," and it's just he was always there. And then at the end, when he goes, "Arrest those men," just little things like that where I was like, man. So Richard Jeni was my pick for that.
I also had someone who was kind of forgotten about, and that's Reggie Cathy, who has won this award before for American Psycho. He's in it for a second, but you remember him in this movie. I think, yeah, in this movie, you kind of forget that like that whole subplot of them trying to rob the bank, and then suddenly he's just gone. And that actor is someone who has been around for a long time. He passed away a couple years ago. But every single movie or TV show I see him in, he stands out. I don't know why. He's got this profound voice and charisma to him that you don't see from a lot of actors, especially character actors like him. So I thought he was really cool to see in this film, and it sucks that he was gone so quickly, but I thought he was good in this. So that's my choice. Frankie, who do you got for this?
I mean, this was actually a little tough for me because I was thinking outside, and I guess the only real cameo in this is Ben Stein. So I put Ben Stein on there, popping up and, as the author of that book. It was around that time Ben Stein popped up in just the most random shit, and everyone popped, everyone that's going to sit here and say that they didn't lie. Everyone popped when they saw him a little bit. So that was the only answer I was really able to come up with, just because it's brief and it is kind of, I guess it moves the plot a little bit, but I enjoyed it.
Okay, so that takes us to our next one, which would be the Gary Oldman Everyone Award for Best Overacting. You can go a lot of different directions, I think, in this, but the true winner of this award is Peter Green. He is absolutely the winner of this award. He, as a villain, you need someone who go hand in hand with Jim Carrey, and he is hamming it up the entire time. He's over the top when he needs to be, and then when he puts the mask on, it's just a completely different person. He was my choice. Frankie, he was your choice as well.
He was definitely my choice. Absolutely. Just like I said, you get the kind of chill menace when he's regular Dorian, and then he puts the mask on. It is that's when he's like, I'm gonna chew the fuck out of this scenery right now, baby, like a $2 steak.
There you go, man.
Yes.
That was my
Jader,
choice.
Do you have that?
Yeah, especially when he has the mask on, dude. At the end, when the one last kiss and all that shit. And I'm like, what the fuck is this, bro? It looks so, yeah, dude. That whole thing at the end when he's wearing the mask, I'm like, dude,
the deal.
You want this limelight right now, man. Take it.
Okay, so that takes us to the Steve Carell See You Next Tuesday Award for the person that we just hate the most in these movies. Jader, let's start with you on this one. Who do you got?
So many choices in this film. No, so I was gonna go with. I love that Tim Bagley's in this movie.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, he's just there. He's like, hey, what is this? So I was gonna give it to the auto shop guys as a pair, but I'm not gonna go that route. I'm actually gonna go with Peggy Brandt, played by Amy Asbeck, because she's a fucking bitch.
That's the right answer, baby.
She's the reason why Dorian gets the mask, talking all that shit to Stanley, man, telling him she's looking for Mr. Nice Guy. And then she's like, oh, the 50,000 in the condo, you know how hard it is to find an apartment. Fuck you, fucking Peggy. Fuck you. So that's my choice.
That was the first heartbreak I ever experienced as a young man.
Still
I believe, in reading, some of the trivia on this is they were actually they shot a scene where she was murdered by Dorian, and they said, where he throws her into the news press, the printing press,
the printing, yeah.
And they took it out because they said it'd be too dark, and I was like, no, I want her gone, man. She picks up Stan, she's like, Stanley, get in, and I'm like, oh great, it's our friend. And then Peggy thank you. And then she hurt me. I was hurt from her. So yeah, she deserves. Can't you tell how I am with my ex-girlfriends? I got hurt and now I want her dead.
Fuck her.
She was one of the good ones. At the beginning of this movie, you're thinking to yourself, oh, she read his essay. She's looking for someone just like him. You're gonna think the entire movie that he's gonna end up with Cameron Diaz, but really in the end, it was her all along. And then she pulls this shit. What the fuck, Peggy? Get out of here. Yeah, no, I was frustrated as you guys. I was like, this is not the same person. So no, I am completely with you on this. Peggy, you deserve this award.
Imagine you took the award over these fucking guys at the mechanics, which are no offense to my mechanic friends because I have plenty of them. Lowest of the low, right? Oh, yeah. And then fucking she comes there and swoops this award right at the end of the film. I'm like, God damn, you suck, dude.
A couple interesting details I found out about this film. The scenes with the big teeth on Jim Carrey, they were supposed to be silent scenes because he wasn't supposed to be able to talk with them, but he learned how to talk with them. So they kept them in the movie and added ad-lib lines at that point.
That's talent, bro.
That's Jim Carrey lifting right there.
There you go.
What really attracted Jim Carrey to the role was that Ipkiss loved cartoons just like Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey read the script and he said, I felt like this was made for me, in which it was made for him. The screenwriter said that he did write this film specifically with Jim Carrey in mind, and he just got attracted to it immediately.
Well, considered other people.
Yeah.
Fucking dick.
The producers hated the musical number, the Cuban Pete musical number, but when they did the test audiences, they loved that scene so much that they decided to keep it, which it would have been such a massive mistake to take that part out of this film.
That's shocking. So I guess they showed it to test, and then everybody was fucking dying in the theater and be like, "What's your favorite scene?" Cuban Pete.
Could you imagine? I mean, I don't want to upset people here, but you see how horny people are and the internet is for fucking release the Snyder cut. I would have been the most outspoken release the Cuban Pete cut person if they had just not put this fucking scene in. I would have lost my goddamn mind. I honestly don't think if I would have liked this movie, but it would not have been as memorable without that scene.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I think that, again, it goes back to that. And every time they promote the film, like if you go to, I think IMDb, it says featured song and it'll say Cuban Pete. Like, maybe would have been a mistake, man.
And then my last two are about Cameron Diaz. She auditioned 12 times for this movie and was cast 7 days before the first day of shooting. That's like that. They really made her work for this. And that's because with my next detail, Chuck Russell, the director, threatened to quit if Cameron Diaz wasn't cast. And as I read in the casting what ifs earlier, Jennifer Connelly was someone who was considered, Anna Nicole Smith. So Chuck Russell really wanted Cameron Diaz, and they made her work for it. Obviously, auditioning 12 times and then shooting 7 days before. So it just kind of shows, like, if it wasn't for this movie, I wonder where Cameron Diaz would even popped up in, like what her career would be.
I don't think there would have been one.
Yeah.
It would be foolish to say that she's not a presence on scene. When she first walks into that bank, the whole movie stops and everyone watches it, as she comes in. So I honestly don't think, like, listen, say what you want about her as an actress or as a comedic actress. Like, she was hired in this situation to be, for lack of better terms, eye candy and to be the damsel in distress. And she nailed it. She hit it she hit it right on the head. So I don't know if there would have been there wouldn't have been a Charlie's Angels Full Throttle without this movie. So you're welcome. You're welcome, America.
Oh no, not Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. We're gonna miss out.
You didn't even mention the original. You went straight for the fucking
Full Throttle, baby.
What would we do without sex tape, guys?
I mean, Bad Teacher, fucking right up there with Citizen Kane,
Right there, man.
Gosh,
so
The Mask really gave us everything we ever needed from Cameron Diaz.
Hey, man, she's creating something about Mary, man. I don't know. Talk all this shit you want. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I love that movie.
Well, she just retired a couple of years ago too, right? Like, she's done that.
But I actually found out probably this year that she retired from acting. I was like, oh, I had no idea. I'm like, where the fuck has Cameron Diaz been?
I think Annie was her last movie too.
She is the best case scenario Malin Ackerman. Like it's like they were just like this, and then Cameron Diaz went, and Malin Ackerman just like she fell. They even to the point with doing the Ben Stiller rom-com, and then it just right down the drain.
I love how Cameron Diaz was just like, she knew her place, and she was like, you know what, it's not going to get any better for me right now, so I'm just going to step out while I'm on top. That's it. I'm going to do the other woman where I'm with Kate Upton and Leslie Mann, and I'm going to crush it in there, and then I'm just going to step off into the sun.
I'm going to take my millions and just live my fucking life, and laugh at everyone that talks shit.
She did it right, man. There's a lot of actors that just don't end in the right film. Like, they retire, and you're like,
She'll come back in like 15, 20 years, get like an Oscar nom, and people are like, Cameron Diaz is back. And then they'll do The Mask 2.
It's funny. It'll be Judd Apatow who brings her out of retirement. I can just see it happening right now.
Yeah.
She'll be like this like kooky mom that's best friends with Leslie Mann in one of their movies, and it just goes from there. It just kind of like makes sense at this point.
Yes. Such a hard on for Apatow. It's crazy.
I do too. Apatow's great, man. He's right though. She's gonna come back and play like Jacob Trendley's horny aunt.
Exactly.
And then people are gonna be like, wow, she's back.
Awesome.
Okay, so Frankie, Jader asked me to come up with some trivia questions because he wanted to challenge you to a mask trivia contest. Are you down for that?
You son of a bitch! I knew you were gonna do this.
We do it. It depends on the episode. We haven't done it in a while. Like let's get some trivia going, man.
Let's get some trivia going. So
I don't even have my whiteboard. Give me 1 second.
Oh! What kind of Schmodown competitor is he? Not ready to fucking draw his gun.
I got 5 questions here. It's always like the reason why we kind of stopped doing the trivia questions on the show is because every time I would write these questions out, they come a little later in the show, and some of them are already answered as we're doing the show leading.
That's okay.
So I mean, it just shows how much you've been paying attention at this point.
Bingo. Yeah, this is for the audience as well.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in, get ready for some hardcore trivia on The Mask, everybody.
This fucking guy.
So, let's start with the first one here. Maybe a little difficult. I don't know. See how you guys respond to it. What is the first balloon animal that Jim Carrey makes as the mask? So there are 3 balloons that he makes. What is the very first one that he comes up with? I remember my days as a balloon animal connoisseur. I'd be taking home flowers because I couldn't get the real thing. Allergies. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Jader, what do you have?
We have a giraffe.
I put poodle. I
Giraffe.
believe it is
Yeah.
giraffe.
I cut out.
Yeah. I was trying to think of the other one. I remember
poodle,
and then the Tommy gun.
The Tommy gun. There you go.
Yeah, the gun. All right. What city does this movie take place in? We have not mentioned this yet, but I remember seeing it at the beginning. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's a good choice. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Frankie, we'll start with you.
For my WWE fans, on this day, I see clearly everything has come to light.
Edge City is correct. So we are 2-1 Jader at this point. The mechanics loan Stanley a car. What is the nickname they give that car?
That's a great question.
That is.
Everyone's had that mechanic that gives them just a beat up car. 3, 2, 1. Jader, what do you got?
The loner.
The loner.
I take offense because it's the loner.
Loner. Loner's correct. We are now 3-2 at this point. Okay, Jader's gonna love this question. What is the name of the club?
Oh, okay.
I hope you get this one.
I mentioned it earlier.
Well, that's what I was telling Frankie. That's why we stopped doing these things. Is you guys just answer the questions as the show's going.
Yeah, it was one time. I think we were like, I don't know if it was Goddard or somebody was on the show that all the questions were already. You're like, we can't do it.
Yeah, sorry guys. Frankie, what do you got?
The Coco Bongo.
Coco Bongo. Yep. All right, so this is our last one here. This one has to do with some dialogue. So what does Stanley say when he swallows the bomb?
I'm upset that I missed my first question because I had everything else.
He's crushing it ever since. All right, and 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Jader, what do you got? That's a spicy meatball, Frankie.
It's not only that's a spicy meatball.
It's a spicy meatball. That's correct. All right, so it ends with Jader winning 5-4. That balloon animal just got you.
Good job.
This one was a little more difficult. Oh, suck it. Look at that. Nice little message you got there.
Fair enough.
All right, we're down to our last 2 categories here. First one is going to be Apex Mountain. So this is the point in someone's career where they're at their peak. This is the top for them. It never gets – they can kind of do whatever they want after this, but it never got better for them after this point. So I think we have quite a few options to choose from when it comes to the mask, and you can name as many as you want. So, Frankie, what do you have for this?
I mean, we can name whoever we want, but there's one answer, and that's director Chuck Russell. Yes. I mean, listen, prior, he had The Blob, he had Nightmare on Elm Street 3, which not one of my favorite of the franchise. But then after this, looking at what he has done, the only notable thing that would even be just like in the conversation is the Scorpion King, and even that movie is a little, But this is the best thing he has done and will ever do. I mean, hopefully continues to work and gets more work and does something better. But it peaked with The Mask.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a contender for this award.
He's definitely the top. That's who I had as well.
Can I say something? I had Jim Carrey. This is 1994 Jim Carrey.
You were fucking crazy.
No.
Out of your mind?
No. 1994 Jim Carrey. It does not get more apex than this. What are the movies you remember him most for? These are 3 of the 5 that come up immediately, right? It's Ace Ventura, it's Dumb and Dumber, and it's The Mask. Immediately these come up. You're never, like we said earlier, you're never going to see a comedian repeat this. Like, I was just thinking maybe someone like Florence Pugh had a great year in 2018 with like Midsommar and Fight with My Family and Little
Family.
Yeah, like she crushed it that year. Jim Carrey knocks it out of the park in 1994. And yes, his career went on after this, and he's still successful. He had stuff like Eternal Sunshine.
Nerd Chronic joined the show. I don't know if you want to pop up his
what do you say here?
Damn. That one hurts. I'm gonna walk out of here and I'm gonna be upset. Jader, you're gonna get a fucking you're gonna get an angry text after this.
We have a couple people shouting them out. I don't know if you want to jump in there. I saw Jesse Swift was on there. If you want to pull up his comment.
Oh, the Jackal.
He's in the comments. We got Jeff Alterman on there as well. Shout out to you guys for jumping on. Thank you so much. But yeah, so going back to the convo, man. I don't know. I just can't. You're not wrong, but it's just I think
it doesn't get more apex than this.
I mean,
he still had bet. I don't know, man.
You can make the argument. You definitely can. You could say that 94. He's been trying to chase it. That success for the rest of his career, but he's still like. In my opinion, when people talk about best Jim Carrey movies, The Mask is in that conversation. I think for the normal fan, it might not be because you have The Mask. You have Liar Liar. You have Bruce Almighty, which I fucking love the hell out of Bruce Almighty. Eternal Sunshine, Truman Show. Like there are other movies in there that I think commercially stand out more. Unfortunately, The Mask, even in 94, is not. Like people don't consider that.
It was the bottom one out of the 3 they came out that year.
That's what I'm saying, because Ace Ventura is the first one that people see and they're like, oh my God. And then Dumb and Dumber, it has the legs, so, but he's consistently stayed here. But in terms of what you're saying, Kyle, the year, definitely the apex.
Yeah, like it's not like an insult that like, oh, it was worse for him after this. It's just more of like, no, this is like as top can get. And he's been like crushing it ever since. Like he's been at the top. He can almost do whatever he wants after this. And after this, he goes like right, like you said, Jader, right into Batman. Like he's the Riddler right after this point.
Crushes at the Riddler. Fuck what anybody thinks about that.
I got him right. I got him right there. I don't know if you guys could see him. There he is.
Yeah, dude. No, he crushes that, man.
So I think he's a contender for this award. Also, Jader, did you have any? Well, you had Chuck Russell as well.
Chuck Russell. That's the answer.
Yeah.
What about Mask? What about Mask in movies? Is this the apex for Mask?
Apex for Masks. You have some contenders out there, man.
I think the Mission Impossible movies are a contender.
There's a lot of masks in there.
Man. Iron Man has a mask. V for Vendetta.
You're not wrong.
Is that a mask or a helmet?
Eat shit.
You're getting into the minutia here.
I mean, the movie's called The Mask. I don't know if it got better for Mask after this. Is there another movie with the word mask in it?
Mask.
Mask of a Phantasm.
Well, there's also Mask with Cher and Eric Stoltz.
How can we forget?
Wow, it still haunts me.
Okay, so I don't know. I had nothing else in here, like maybe Balloon Animals, but I don't remember. I think Wedding Crashers might have a beat.
Yeah, that motherfucker made a car.
When the kid's like, I want a bicycle.
Bicycle, that's what he did. My bad. Woo! Look at that. Mm-hmm. That was bad. All right.
All right, who won the movie? This is an easy question, guys.
Come on, man. come on. This is a no-brainer, dude. Like, no one's even close. This goes to Jim Carrey.
James Carrey.
Yeah, man. So
you were close, Milo, but this is Jim's.
Yeah, no. That Milo's definitely a contender up there.
He is a contender. You're not wrong.
Yeah, but this goes out to him.
Final thoughts on The Mask, guys. Frankie, I'm going to start with you. This was your choice. Any final thoughts on this film?
It's iconic in my opinion. In the Alvarez household, it'll be on multiple times a month, if not a week. It is, I think, unfortunately, I do think it is an underrated gem that with the kind of how we've progressed with the internet, people speak about more. But prior to 2010, I do not remember a lot of people talking about this movie. Jim Carrey, height of his powers, iconic, doing everything he can to just put the movie on his bag dough, just absolutely took off and hit the ground running, didn't stop. Scene after scene is great. You're not going to find a part of this movie that is not entertaining. I love it. It will stay my favorite movie of all time.
Boom.
You guys keep mentioning how it's kind of underrated. It feels like if underrated, we're talking about like maybe he's like this movie's like Chris Bosh in the Miami Heat. Like someone who's strong, who's in there, who contributes, but it's no Dwayne Wade or LeBron James.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But very necessary to the career of Jim Carrey. Jader, do you have any final thoughts on this?
Same, kind of piggybacking off him, man. I do feel it's underrated Jim Carrey. Not enough people mention it as well. You think Dumb and Dumber, you think Ace Ventura, even Liar Liar. I feel gets more love than The Mask does.
Mm-hmm.
And your Grinches and your you ask Christian Harloff what his best role is, he's going to tell you 10 out of 10, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But it was just a fun time. Back then, easier times, as Frankie said earlier in the show.
You ain't kidding.
It again, after not seeing it for so long and seeing it this week, I already know that it's going to be on repeat as well. Just the 30, 40 minutes that my son saw the film. Lost his shit, and he was already telling me next week as soon as he gets here he wants to finish watching the movie. And he has a very addictive personality where it's just gonna nonstop. I already know that he's gonna ask me for the soundtrack on his iPhone and all that stuff. So I don't think there's many people that haven't seen this movie, but if you haven't, definitely check it out. It is a fun time. It is like watching an old school cartoon. It kind of has that kind of a Roger Rabbit feel to it. Very noir, cartoonish, actual actors and all that. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, and that's going to do it for our conversation on The Mask, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, for joining us. Oh, what do we got here?
That was my son's Halloween costume. Green face, dude suit, and everything.
That's amazing.
Look at that, man. Hey,
but you stop that now, Jader.
Oh, challenge accepted.
Frankie, thank you so much for joining us on this episode, man. We really appreciate it. We hope you'll come back eventually one day. We'd love to have you. Please plug anything that you want to throw out there, your show, what you're working on, Schmodown, all that stuff.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I'd love to come back whenever you guys are willing to have me and speak about Small Soldiers, because that's what will be next. I'm just going to keep picking 90s movies, Jader, just to piss Kyle off.
Yes.
You and every other guest.
But thank you guys sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. The Animal, Frank Alvarez in the movie Trivia Schmodown. As of recording right now and being live right now, I have learned of my next match. It has not been announced yet. And then, there was some jobber talking shit last night on the Schmodown pay-per-view. So, Rick Radis, careful what you say, buddy. You don't want to poke the bear too much. And then go check out The Basement Yard podcast that my buddy Joe and I do. It's a really, really fun time. We just talk shit and get ridiculous. And then, check me out on socials, falvarez8085 on Twitter and on Twitch, and then the Frank Alvarez on Instagram.
Sounds good. Jader, any final things you want to say?
No, actually, I'm going to plug the show as well. Basement Yard, guys, if you guys have not seen that show, it is a fun time. Very ludicrous. Very out there. There's some shit that goes down in that show. It's so funny. And just, you know, if you guys are new to the show, I see a bunch of new names here. Just, you know, like, subscribe, tune in. We try to have a weekly show. It all depends on the guests that we have next week. I think we have Kate Mulligan coming in. We're going to talk some movies. So just tune in, like us. And I have no matches lined up right now because I lost. But as soon as I get I mean, it is what it is, man.
Listen, if anyone is smart enough, they're gonna do a match. You know, I know Video Drew does shows where she does just like hardcore like movie trivia. You know, for a specific movie. If she ever does a mask, I'm fucking throwing my hat in the ring and I'm challenging you because
let's go.
You know that hurt to lose that draft question, and I kid you not, it's gonna piss me off.
Oh man, but yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining the shows, dude. Thank you. I can't thank you enough, man. I know you are a busy guy. This was fucking a month in the making, but we made it happen. And yeah, man, good luck to you on if Riders is talking shit, man. Good luck. As long as you're not playing the Den, I'm an Alvarez. I'm an Animal fan.
We will see, my friend.
And then everyone in the audience, thank you again for tuning in. We got fun shows lined up, movies that are going to be good and bad. Stuff like The Goonies might be coming up. We have someone coming up who picked 5 completely strange movies, and that's going to be a blast. And then we have the sports movie draft coming up as well. So please tune in for that in a couple weeks. Episode 50 is almost here, guys, and we can't wait. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time on another new episode of the